Folks, let me tell you about a painful truth about this market, and then I'll get into the latest home prices and insights. That's right, we're back with the numbers. Home prices and insights for the City of Toronto for week ending July the 30th, 2025. If you want to speak directly with me about your real estate situation, selling, buying, it's really simple. Below this video, in the description, there's a link to my calendar. Click on that, book a time that's convenient for you, and we'll talk about whatever's on your mind. I've been receiving lots of phone calls from realtors following up on the showings we're doing with our buyer clients. They're checking on any kind of interest that my buyer clients may have in the property. They're doing their job. Last week, just before the long weekend, an agent calls me, and this is an agent who's previously, months ago, we had put an offer on his property. And he called me saying, "Hey, Santo, have your clients purchased yet?" The answer was yes, we had purchased. And he said, "Oh, that's too bad. Well, we're reducing the price by $100,000. And I thought if your clients didn't buy yet, then this would be perfect for them." Well, we did try to buy that property. And I didn't remember all the details at the time I was on the phone with him. Excuse me. But I go back into my notes and I could see that when we put the offer in, we were $200,000, our offer, lower than what they were listed at. And this was months ago. Now, when we come up with a price, we look at a ton of different data. We look at the market specific to that neighborhood. And our buyer clients, almost all of them say, "What do you think this home will sell for?" On a home that they're interested in, right? So they'll say, "What do you think it's going to sell for? What do you think makes sense? What do you think we can buy this for?" And we'll do our research, present the number, and then if the buyer is interested, somewhere around there is where we're putting in the offer. And that's what we did. And we were $200,000 lower than what the property was listed at. It didn't go over very well with the seller side, and we went back and forth a little bit, but it just didn't go anywhere. We moved on. We ended up buying another property. So now it's months later. This agent is saying we're reducing the price by $100,000. Well, I can tell you a painful truth for that seller is probably because he's waited so long to reduce the price. He's probably thinking, "I'm losing $100,000. So, man, okay, drop the price by $100,000 and let's just sell it." That's what he's thinking. He's thinking he's doing every buyer in the area a favor by coming down by $100,000. The reality is, if it's the same market that it was months ago when we put the offer in, he's still $100,000 too high. But the more reality is the fact that the market has moved. It is not in a free fall, but if you look at my data, the numbers are coming down. Average prices are dropping. The market is softer than what it was several months ago. And so he's still behind more than 100,000, probably closer to 200,000 again. He's too high. But in his mind, he's thinking, "Man, I'm going to go down 100,000, blow it out the door. Everybody should buy it now." And we see a lot of examples of this out there. You'll see a property listed at 2.5, it sells for 2.2, and you're thinking, wow, there's a $300,000 price difference there. Yes, but that doesn't mean the seller lost $300,000. 2.5 was unrealistic. 2.2 is probably the price it should have been at from the beginning, and now it's sold at the price it should have sold at. I've spoken with many sellers this year. They, at the beginning of their selling journey, the most important number I could give them is a realistic, true number that I would expect their home to sell for in the current market, not the market 2 years ago, but right now, what makes sense that their home is going to sell for. Now, it's up to the seller if they want to accept that number, although all the data is there. They may be It may make sense to them. They may think, no, it's something else. But I have a duty to present the number that's realistic and makes sense. Well, I know if I come in and say your home should sell for example, 1.7 million, and somebody else says 1.9 million, I get it. The seller's thinking it's $200,000 difference. I don't want to leave $200,000 on the table. What seller does? So that property gets listed for 1.9 million and nothing happens. And then there's a price reduction of 50,000 and that seller is thinking I'm losing $50,000. It's not too often they think, oh, I was wrong and let me get to a more realistic price. They drop it by 50,000, nothing happens. They drop it by another 50,000, nothing happens. They do it again several times, and this is over the span of many months. What they're doing is if the market was here and they're listed here and they come down, well, the market has moved also, and they start like this and they're chasing the market all the way down. And you'll see two types of sales out there. Ones that say start at 1.9 and then they sell for 1.7 and you're thinking, holy smokes, 200,000 off the price. That's like, boom, just a sale like that. Well, those are sellers that were out at a number that was too high. And through experience, they realize doesn't make sense. 1.7 is more realistic and they accept that number. And then these other sellers that go down kicking and screaming and just, no. And they're going to take their time, reducing a little bit, and they're chasing the number down. And if you speak to those sellers, you say, hey, how's the market? They're going to tell you the painful reality to those sellers is the market is in a free fall. It just keeps dropping. And it's not the reality. Yes, the market is trending down. That's true. But it is not in a free fall. The seller had the wrong pricing strategy right from the beginning, and all the way down, they never wanted to believe where their home should actually be sold at what price. And so they continue to chase the market down, and it takes the selling process from a few months to many months, and it's painful all the way down. And there's a big gap from where they started to where they actually sold. And when you see those numbers, those sellers think the market is in a free fall. But this is not the market that rewards sellers trying to get more than market value for the house. In fact, it's the opposite of that kind of market. If I could leave you with this, if you're starting your selling journey, you want to be on the market, you want to sell your home, it's vital you know realistically what your home is going to sell for. It's your home. You could do whatever you want. You can go high, you can not sell. You decide what you're going to do. After all, it's your home. But at the very least, know the real numbers so you can make decisions based on realistic numbers. If you think this video can help somebody you know, please pass it along. And if you get value from what we're talking about, subscribe. Now, let's get into the numbers. Folks, forgive us for last week. We couldn't get the numbers, the data up due to technical difficulties, but we're back on track now. Here we go. We're going to be focused on the city of Toronto. It's for week ending July the 30th. This show is all about the freehold market. I do have detached semis and towns for the city of Toronto. I've got condos on the board. It's just for reference. Tomorrow's show is all about condos across the GTA. But just to show, the average condo price of $660 is $925,000 lower than the average detached price. And again, just for the city of Toronto. Here we go. City of Toronto, detached properties for weekend in July 30th. 124 detached properties were sold. 29 of those sold at $2 million or more. So sales are trending down. We expect that at this time of the year. You know, we peak sometime in the spring. In this case, sales-wise, we peaked the beginning of June. And since then, sales overall, not every single week in a row, but overall sales are diminishing on a weekly basis leading up to August. And then usually comes September, which we'll see it again a year ago. We'll probably see it again this year. Sales tend to go up again. So that's what we're seeing right now. Sales are trending down. What's not trending down, however, are the amount of properties selling at $2 million or more. Those numbers, I'm going to count backwards from where we are now, 29, 27, 26, 30, 27. So we're not seeing a drop in property selling at $2 million or more, which is helping to explain that if sales come down and the same amount of properties are selling at $2 million, or the properties selling at $2 million or more kind of remain the same, the percentage of properties selling at $2 million or more is increasing, which is helping to show that over the last few weeks, average sold price has been increased. Overall, average sold price has been trending down. But if you're focused on just the last couple of weeks, yeah, average sold price is a bit higher. We're currently sitting at $1,585,000 for the average sold price of a detached property across the city of Toronto. But overall, that number is trending down. Versus last year, $1,585,000 is 4% lower than the same week a year ago. The median price of $1,191,000 is 7% lower than the same week a year ago. The dotted line, that's the 4-week moving average, and both for average price and median price has been trending down. It's pretty predominant in the median price. It's like straight down almost. 124 were sold. 30 of those, so 24%, sold at list price or more. 265 were listed. Listings are trending down. Things kind of tend to slow down over the summer months. And so that's what we're seeing here with fewer listings. 2,586 are available for sale. Those are the active listings on the market right now for detached properties only, and only in the city of Toronto. Basically what we're saying, if we're looking at our solds and we see how many are available for sale during the current week that we're in, July 30th, 4.8% of all detached properties available for sale actually sold during the week of July 30th. Months of inventory overall has been climbing. We're sitting at 4.8 months of inventory. It's been pretty similar the last few weeks, but if we go back 3 months, it's also pretty clear months of inventory has been climbing. So that's the whole city of Toronto. If we look at the detached market based on 9 different sections, well, for sure there's different types of behavior. If the whole city's at 4.8 months of inventory, actually when you look around, there's some areas much higher, other areas lower. There's not too many areas much lower, but you look at Scarborough sitting at 4.5. You look at East York, Riverdale Beaches area, that's probably one of the more competitive areas at 3.4 months of inventory. Rexdale, Downsview, sales jumped way up there, causing that months of inventory to go down to 2.6. But normally Rexdale, Downsview is a little bit more quiet in that area as far as volume goes. Etobicoke, 4.1. And then you see my handwritten in there, my notes. Those are active listings. So Scarborough, 31 properties sold, but there's 609 active listings. 31, 609 to choose from. Lots of properties for sale. East York, it's 11 sold. It's 163 to choose from. Up top here, Uptown, 13 sold. There's 402 to choose from, but only 13 sold. And you could look around here and see the areas that pertain more to the area you're interested in. Let's look at 3-bedroom detached. So only 3 bedrooms. Sales trending down. 49 3-bedroom detached properties sold for week ending July the 30th. Average sold price is $1,109,000. If you look back just the previous few weeks, it looks like average sold price is really coming down quickly for 3 bedrooms. If you kind of go back, it's still trending down, but it's not as aggressive as, say, over the last 3 or 4 weeks. And compared to last year, $1,109,000 is 16% lower than the same period a year ago. Here's 4 bedrooms. 47 detached 4-bedroom properties were sold for weekend in July 30th. Average price for the week that we're in now jumped way up. There's a high percentage of properties selling at $2 million or more. So average sold price is $2,158,000. But overall, if we kind of step back and take more of a longer term view to figure out a trend, overall, average sold price for 2 bedrooms has also been trending down. Sales has not been trending down, as even an argument, well, since July, maybe there's a few extra sales every single week. Versus last year, the average sold price of $2,158 is 7% higher. And when we compare the two, 3-bedroom average price to 4-bedroom average price, there's over $1 million difference. So it's a different world many times buying 3-bedroom versus a 4-bedroom. Budget, how much can you afford has a lot to do with whether you can afford to go to that next level size house. Here's semi-detached properties. For weekend in July 30th, 49 sold. 4 of those sold at $1.5 million or more. Average sold price dropped way down from the previous week. There was just, I look at the data, I look at the individual sales. There was a higher number of lesser expensive semis being sold. And if you look at here, we're looking at 14 selling at 1.5 million or more, 15, 12. This 1 week, it was only 4, which brought the average sold price way down. But previous to that, if we're looking at a trend, average sold price for semis seemed to be trending upwards, actually. Compared to last year, $1,116,000 is 10% lower. The median price of $1,011,000 is 16% lower. Months of inventory sitting at 2.5 months of inventory. That's for semi-detached. For townhouses, and these are freehold townhouses, sales trending down. 6 freehold townhouses sold. That's it. Just 6 in the whole city of Toronto. 1 of them sold at $1.5 million or more. Average sold price also since spring has been trending down. We're now sitting at $1,128,000. 1128 is 5% lower than the same week a year ago. The median price of $1,090,000 is 7% lower. Average price and median price for townhouses trending downwards. And months of inventory, way up there at 9, but that's just for this week because sales were so low. But overall, months of inventory is trending up. It's sitting somewhere, I would say, without this week, I would average it out the last month, say around 3.5 months of inventory. 9 is it's not realistic. However, for the week, based on the sales, that's where we're at. When we look at the overall summary of months of inventory, we're pretty much sitting, whether it's detached, 3-bedroom detached is at 4.7, 4-bedroom detached is at 4.8 months of inventory, semis, towns, pretty much, especially in the detached market, we're at the top end of a balanced market. But that's an average. So in some areas, you're going to experience more of a buyer's market. In other areas, depending on price point, neighborhood, it may be a little bit more competitive. But things, generally speaking, the market right now in August is coming down. It's slowing down right now. And that's just what we see most years at this time of the year. Thanks for watching. Have an awesome day.